how many curse words do you want?
I think this is an important topic. So, say what you need to say, buddy.
When I saw this question, I almost flew into a rage, and the reason being is I've been doing this professionally, both illustration and graphic design professionally, meaning I get paid to do this.
Yeah, this is your living.
It pays my house bill. It pays my electric, my gas, my water.
I'm putting another subject on here because I don't even have to reply to it, but I really want to hear from both Scott and Shawn, because I've heard from Shawn in the past on this subject, and Scott had a rant about this, I think, yesterday. So let me just set you both up. In a survey commissioned by the Sunday Times, artists top a list that also featured telemarketers, social media manager, PR specialists, business consultants, and human resource managers. 71% of those asked believe that artists were the most non-essential of jobs during the pandemic that cannot be named. With the results having been collated from approximately 1,000 participants who were aged 16 and over. So my deal is, first, Scott talked a little bit about how artists in general are not appreciated, and so I'm just going to go to you, Scott.
What Dirk is referencing is, as of late, I've been doing some small commissions on some little cards, and they're taking me anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours to complete little color sketches and drawings. And, I take pride in my work and actually find myself, trying not to just shell something out, but actually to do something that's going to make people want it more. The funny thing is talking to somebody, they said, how much do you charge for these? And I'm probably at the time was charging not enough. But I wanted to kind of stick up for myself. Is like, what you don't understand is like the tools that I use, which is markers and, certain type of paper and pencils and lighting, and how I ship these things to you all cost money that I'm not actually charging you for. I'm charging you for my time. And like some of the markers I use, if I need one marker, it's $6. If I want to, if I want to get a 6-pack of these markers, I can get them for $30. And if I can catch them on sale at the right time, I can get those 6 markers like 40% off. So those are tools. Just like I never cared about repairing my own car, which is a mistake, but I don't know how to do that stuff. And the people that know how to do that and that have the tools, our society has no problem with people who work on cars all day. We don't call them car nerds. We respect them and think, oh, this guy's brilliant because he knows how to fix cars. And it is needed to get to work and to go get groceries or go get something. But art can be important too. I don't actually take offense to this survey of saying you're not essential, because to completely survive, I don't make food for you. I don't provide electricity. I don't provide clean water. Now I provide entertainment. I provide escapism, which are still super important things. As the article says, when you're stressed out and you go for a walk, you go slap on your headphones and you listen to an artist tell a story to you or play music to soothe you. I read comics because I love the art. The stories are good, but if I really was just cared about the stories, I'd read a book. But I want to read comic book art because that's what brings me in. It pulls me in. I think art is super important because it also captures the emotion and the things that we're going through as a society as well. Like a building's nice, and I respect architects because if I built a building, it would fall down, and it's super important. But they also have educated themselves how to do this. And just because I've taken Number one, I believe anybody can draw. I truly believe everybody who I talk to goes, "Oh man, you're a good artist. You're born with that." And I'm like, I really don't believe that. I buy into the fact that anybody can draw if you're willing to take the time to practice and do it over and over and over and over and hear criticism and maybe listen to the criticism and just do it over and over. And I'm thankful I was born in a time that we didn't have the internet. I know it makes me sound old, but I might get distracted like a lot of my children do. They have a lot of talent, but they're also fighting all the distractions of the internet and having everything handed to them entertainment wise. So it's a real struggle to kind of keep pushing them, but not shoving them into the art direction of art. Luckily, I focused on a lot of art stuff when I was younger. And when I do it now, which I don't do it as often as I should, some of the fruits of that labor from then is showing through. But really, I don't draw enough. I don't do this 12 hours a day. So it is a skill. I think this is what I always tell people. If I'm drawing on something or painting something or creating something for you, whether it's a graphic design project or anything, I believe that my time is worth at least $20 an hour. And so if I draw something small on a little card, after all said and done, I think I deserve, $20 at least an hour for something not a lot of people can do. But also a lot of people can do it. And the bad thing about art is, if you're an architect, to the common man, they like your, you can build a building, you can fix a car or whatever. Art is still subjective. I can show you a portfolio and you just don't like my style. And you could say it sucks. I don't care about it. I don't like Jim Lee, even though he's one of the greatest artists ever, because he's too realistic or whatever it is. You can find a reason to hate art. Practical things like fixing a car, you like your car fixed, and we accept that. I get why they say it's non-essential, but I think art is very important because people don't think, here's a random cup, right? Somebody designed this cup. Graphic designers and artists have created everything you touch in your life. You go, I need to go buy some
Someone designed the mold for that styrofoam cup too.
Exactly. You need some ink pens. You go to Walmart. You have all these brands flashing at you, and you decide some way to grab a pair. Or a couple of pins, and all that fights with you. Sean Murphy's listening right now, and he's a graphic designer and artist, and I'm sure Sean's going to add to this all the time.
Right.
What I really hate is when people go, "Oh man, you should draw comics and you should do this for a living."
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, would you like to buy this from me? Oh no, I'm not going to buy that from you.
I don't have the $4.99.
Exactly. I don't have $4.99 for your self-published comic. And
art is free.
Yeah. And that's the big struggle is like, that's where I was kind of mad is people were like, why do you charge so much? And I was like, well, I used 10 different markers on that.
Scott, how much were you charging?
I charge on those things anywhere from $25 to $40 based on my time.
Grossly undercharged.
For sure. And that will change, but I'm also kind of a no-name. But if you're wondering what I'm talking about, go to my Facebook. You can see what I've done, recently. But in some ways, it's a good way to make a little bit of extra money and, show off my talent and practice my talent, because I think that's the hardest thing as an adult. And you guys, Sean's probably the opposite. But we also different in our lifestyles because I have children and stuff. It's hard to just sit down and draw whatever you want when you have time. I guess I want to be more, I don't know if the right word's efficient with my time. I want to produce something. Whereas when, 25 years ago, I would just sit down and work on my own little characters or stuff like that, if that makes sense. And I'll stop talking.
Before we go on, let me say a lot of people are putting comments in, and I didn't want to, Scott was really laying it out there in a beautiful way. Okay. Really, and I didn't want to interrupt while you were saying it because you were saying it so well. People keep the comments coming, and I'm gonna let Shawn talk, and give him the same space, and then we'll take your comments. So please keep them coming. I'll put them up there in just a moment. Shawn, do you want to take the floor on this subject?
How much time do we have?
Well,
It's like 2 minutes.
How many curse words do you want?
I think this is an important topic. So say what you need to say, buddy.
When I saw this question, I almost flew into a rage, and the reason being is I've been doing this professionally, both illustration and graphic design professionally, meaning I get paid to do this.
Yeah, this is your living.
It pays my house bill. It pays my electric, my gas, my water. I've been doing this for nearly 30 years professionally. Now, I've been illustrating pretty much since I could hold a pencil. Mom once said that she thought that I came out of the womb with a pencil in one hand and a crayon in the other. I've always illustrated. Above my table at work, there is a cartoon that says it's got an individual, an artist, presenting a logo to a client. The client says, "Why are you charging me so much? You only spent 5 minutes to create this logo." And the next frame, the artist replies, "I spent 10 years learning how to do this in 5 minutes."
Mm-hmm.
Now, that kind of goes to illustrate exactly what it takes for me personally to do what I do. My boss will always come in and say, "How hard is it to create this graphic?" And my answer is always the same. It's not hard at all. It just takes time. I can create anything you want graphically. I can illustrate anything you want. Give me pencil and paper. You just have to give me time. My ability is the amount of education that I've given myself. I read the books. No one taught me how to draw. I found the books. I read the books. I studied the techniques of many different artists. Like Scott said, I grew up in a time where there wasn't an internet, so I couldn't just look this stuff up. I had to go to the library. I had to go to the bookstores. I had to purchase my own library to teach myself, because there wasn't a class. There wasn't a professional online showing you how to do this stuff. I had to learn through just hard work, determination, and focus. Literally, that's all I had. I had great parents right behind me saying, "You do whatever you want to do. You can create whatever you want to create. Go for it. If that's what you want to do, if that's the direction you want to go, and go for it." And it was that support that really, helped me on my path. Now, as far as being non-essential, I literally went into a rage because, like Scott laid out, there's nothing non-essential about what Scott, what Dirk do as a visual artist. Scott mentioned everything you see, everything, doesn't matter. Stop sign, graphic artist was behind that. Your favorite banner over your favorite eatery, graphic artist did that. An etching on a glass, graphic artist did that. The interface on your phone, graphic artist. The icons on that interface, graphic artist. There's nothing that you look at, that you see in the world, that a graphic artist did not have their hand on. And it took that person not hours to create that. Scott, you say that illustration took you an hour to illustrate. No, it didn't. It took you 30 years to create that illustration. It took you countless successes and setbacks to get to the point where you can envision and relay on that piece of paper what you had in your mind for somebody else to be able to see. For years, schools, high schools, elementary schools, they all seem to want to remove art from the school. That's one of the first things that whenever there's a budget cut, it always seems like art is one of the first things that get cut, because nobody looks at art and says that's essential.
And music.
And
shout out to music.
All of the arts, dance,
writing,
all of these things are they push it off because, as you stated, that's not going to put food on my table. That's not going to feed my kids. That's not going to get the plumbing working. That's not going to turn the lights on when there's a power outage. Obviously there are more physical, for lack of a better word, more tangent careers out there that people do look at as a necessity over art. But what they don't realize is without that music, without that puzzle laid out before them, without the funnies in the Sunday paper, life is bland. Life is dull. Life is empty. You can't survive without some form of art in your life. Not just, as I said before, the apps on your phone, but what those apps represent on your phone is what touches an individual. You look back through history, the Greek society, artists were held above statesmen. Artists were held above the military, the leaders. Why? Because they inspired people, because they touched on people emotionally. You look at the sculptures, you look at the paintings of those times, and the artists that touched that did far greater things. You look at I believe it was Michelangelo, who not only did beautiful paintings, but wonderful sculptures, and they brought forward that sense, that emotion that people couldn't just feel. They needed something to draw that out of them, and that's what artists do, is they draw that emotion to the forefront and allow you to feel when nothing else will. One of the biggest problems I've ever had is whenever people talk about artists, they just draw stuff. It's not worth anything or what have you. One of the statistics that I like to tell them is, you feel happy whenever you look at this particular TV program or this piece of art or listening to this bit of music. But what they don't realize is the turmoil and whatnot that artist may have gone through. I believe artists are number 3 or number 4 as far as occupations that cause suicide, because artists are so emotional, because we wear a lot of our emotions on our sleeve to project that in our creations. And to say that they are non-essential, that just shows the short-sightedness of society today, and society 20, 30, 40 years ago. If the world was truly fair, I would dare say that the artists would be paid like, NBA players,
NBA players, yeah.
NFL players.
Some of them are.
Some of them are, and those people also paint a big red dot on a canvas, and
No, not even that. Actors, directors, writers, that's all art. And there's different ways.
Absolutely.
You get paid by unfortunately, the system of how money is made. If you make people money, you get money. If you sit at home and create the world's greatest book ever written and you don't show it to anybody, nothing comes of it. So it's just, how life is, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
The one thing I want to touch on is the word talent. I've been doing this I've been doing art since I was 4 or 5 years old. I thought I was being serious at the time. I seriously tried art when I was 4 or 5 years old. And, over the years, people go, oh, you're so talented. And, I always take that for, someone's being very nice. They're being kind to you by saying that you're talented. But I didn't just pick up a pencil and suddenly draw like Michelangelo. That didn't happen. I still don't draw like Michelangelo. As good as I am, say what you will. The place that I'm at right now came to me through hard work. And much like Scott, I believe that anyone on this planet can draw. If you have if you can hold a pencil and you can see things, then you can draw. So it's a skill. It's something that can be taught to you. Now, there are varying degrees of creativity, and there are varying degrees of focus, because learning to do this takes a lot of alone time. You got to spend the time on the artboard, and it also takes a lot of observation. You have to look at stuff, and you have to be patient. And you have to want it. You have to really, really want it, because it's not something that's going to happen quickly or overnight. And you also have to, there's another element that every good artist has, and that is the ability to be critical without crippling yourself. So you can look at whatever it is that you're doing, and believe me, everything that I do, I'm upset with. I'm never really happy with whatever it is. But I can say, look, if I just did this a little different and I did that a little different, then the next time it'll be a little bit better, and it won't make me as mad as this silly thing that I've just created. And if you are an artist who cannot do that evaluation, you will never grow. And if you're an artist who beats yourself up too much, then you will stop creating the art. So you have to be able to be self-critical, and you have to be able to give yourself a break a little bit and realize that the next thing that you do is going to be a little bit better than the last thing you did, if you use that critical evaluation, or you hear critical evaluation from other people. And by the way, it probably shouldn't be from friends and family, because unless your friends and family happen to be Scott and Shawn, who know what they're talking about. But it should be from people who are artists or who are teachers and can give you some critical evaluation. But ultimately, you have to be your greatest critic. If you're not your greatest critic, you're going to stop evolving as an artist. So I think those are the attributes of a good artist. And it's not talent, folks. It's skill.
No.
And it's something that you grow with over time, and you have to work your ass off to make it happen. And so while I do always appreciate where it comes from when people say, oh, you're so talented, realize that what you're calling talent is a skill that has been created. It's been forged over many decades of sitting in front of an art pad or a tablet and creating that thing. And frankly, it is something that is valuable because, frankly, look at the scoreboard. You can't do it.
Dirk, I was going to add. Dirk, what I was going to say is, before you said it, Yeah, almost everything we draw as an artist, somebody will come up and go, "Oh, that's amazing!" And in your brain, you're going, "Thank God they didn't notice this. They didn't notice the fingers on this. They didn't notice this. They don't see all my lines where maybe I erased." And luckily, I drew light enough. We talked about Pete Nifton, the friend of ours, me and Steve. I can't remember his exact quote, but he said something to the effect of, as an artist, it's when to walk away from a piece, because in his mind, something to the effects of
when do
a
you
piece
stop?
is
It's never done. You have to know when to walk away.
Yeah, it's never done. You just have to know when to walk away. Is what Pete's
done
always
enough.
said.
Yeah, he's so right.
And you know, I told Jennifer today as I was boxing up this artwork to ship out, I was like, man, I really, really actually like these pieces. I kind of want to keep them. And then I thought to myself, that's good, because that means I gave that artwork everything I could give.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something I want to keep, that means it's really great that it's going out the door, because that's only going to help me get better. It's going to give the customer exactly what they want, you know, my whole heart and soul. And, you know, just like you said, you know, we don't say a doctor's talented. We say that, like, he's worked really hard to get where he's at. And that's the same thing. Now, I do believe that people are born with a lot more creativity than others, or maybe they're not born with it. Maybe they've experienced stuff as a child that set them on a different course than somebody else. You're around different support systems, or, you know, I grew up reading comics and my dad never cared for that. And he'll tell it to this day, but he's like, I was just happy you were reading something finally, you know. And
take it back to Michelangelo. Michelangelo studied under people, but it's not like he studied under thousands of people. He has an innate ability to draw out what he wants. So if I can speak to this as the sole non-artist here, I guess, you know, I can do the podcast, I can do certain things. I like how things go together. So maybe I have an artistic flair, but the whole idea of this non-essential art obviously is one of the few things that separate us from the animals. You know, ever since we became human, there's art on walls, there's handprints, just simple handprints of, you know, this desire to reach out and express stuff. So that's not in question. This poll is one of two things. You know, it's there to get this going so that you go and click on it and give them views and give them exactly what they want. But this is specifically non-essential in the fact of the virus that cannot be named. You know, you each speak of art, and as you speak of art, you're at home pretty much by yourself doing it. You don't need to go into an office and subject yourself and other coworkers to possibility of harm in this time. That's what they mean by non-essential. Now, are there certain artists that
I can accept that
have to go in? Yeah, there are some projects that are absolutely needed, and some people will have to go in, or they can work from home. So therefore, they are essential. That's understood. But of course, you ask a layman, you ask me, is an artist essential during this time? No, of course not. I completely understand your valid points, and I get it. But it's not, you know, as Shawn said, you know, it's not keeping lights on. It's not keeping people fed. Now, in your situation, as someone who has to depend on that income, it's essential to you. But to the average person, is an artist an essential position? Of course they're going to say no. Those 29% that said yes, those are artists.
The only argument that I would have for that is, yes, the article may be referring to this particular moment in time, whether it's essential or not.
Yeah.
The problem is that the idea of artists being essential or not isn't just relegated to this point in time.
Oh no,
exactly. That's what has our hackles up about this subject, is because it happens time and time again.
And that's the only reason why, like I said, whenever I saw the title of the question, it was like, you know,
I get the doctors are the most essential people in this time of, you know, absolutely. I mean, obviously.
But in the great scheme of things, as I said, you know, this goes back to, like, you know, was it, I want to say Oppenheimer, but I don't think that was. Oh, the P Word Christ. Who was that artist?
Damien Hirst.
No.
The
Anyway,
one that had. Oh, okay, yeah.
Christ, the crucifix in bodily fluid. Anyways,
I can't remember.
Maybe
I'll look that up.
I got you. Anyone out there want to give us?
As it came along, the government's always been trying. Certain part of the government's always been trying to cut funding to the arts because they see it as non-essential. So I get where you're coming with that. Absolutely, art is essential. You look at schools now, and their music programs have been cut. Is music essential? Well, when you look at it, black and white, no. But what it does is it basically is teaching you a language, teaches you to work with people. It gives you a fundamental understanding of how things work together. And, all of you, when you have your art, it allows you to express something through your art. Like you're saying with the suicides. Of course, when you have something that is driving you, whether positive or negative, and you have to get it out, art is how you do it. Whether through a drawing, or it's through a book, or a poem, or just beating a drum as hard as you can and putting music behind it. It doesn't matter. As long as you can get it out there, you're not only contributing to your positive health, but the positive health of the universe. None of us could sit here and be happy. Look at us. We're to a degree all surrounded by visual art of something that we enjoy. That brings us joy.
Yeah.
We talk about geek stuff.
Yeah.
That all is joy. And, it's always been that way. Music brings people together. Plays brought people together. We know of plays from 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. All of that. Of course, it's a driving factor of human experience. But it is under quote-unquote fire, even though I don't want to say that, by people who don't understand how that works in a society.
Right.
And that is where I can completely understand your valid hate towards this idea of art not being essential. But this is specifically referring to these times.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't so offended by it, but I get it too. The artist you're talking about is Andreas Serrano.
Was it?
Yeah, it's a photograph by American artist, photographer Andreas Serrano depicts a small plastic crucifix submerged in a glass tank of the artist urine.
What was Mapplethorpe then? I thought Mapplethorpe was that.
He does black and white photos of gay people.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I guess it was
gay men mostly. Gay men BDSM stuff.
Okay, so it was probably the same time.
Which I might know a little about.
They both came under fire at about the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get to some of the comments. I promised everyone we would do that. So Gigi says, and thanks to Gigi for chiming in through YouTube. Very cool. Can't pay the light bill with exposure bucks. Everyone says, hey, you can get some exposure if you'll do this for me for free.
Right.
I have a few expletives for that.
Of course you do. Ronnie says, it just takes a few minutes. People don't realize the time you spend working on that talent. Skill is worth money. If you don't think so, then just get a guy off the street to wire your house.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was talking about when I was talking about the markers. Is like, you don't understand. It took me 4 or 5 sketches on this piece of paper over here before I ever went to complete the work on the card. It takes time.
Jim is drawing the line between art and musicians.
I agree very much
by saying that why do you guys charge so much? I mean, I know that stuff's expensive. Amps and mixers and microphones plus the instruments,
maintenance on the instruments,
travel, staying places, feeding the band. I mean, not to mention the amount of time that you get together to learn that stuff. No one just picks up a guitar and goes at it. I mean, come on, guys.
An off-color example of this. Trying to think of the best way to phrase this, because it comes from my dad, and Scott knows kind of where that means. But is in the discussion of paying women for certain activities. Like, why would you pay when you can get it for free? And my dad's response was, well, yeah, you can go find food in the dumpster, but sometimes you want to go to a nice restaurant. And
wow,
there's truth.
Right.
So yeah, you can get a free local band, but that's not going to be,
it's not going to be
the
you
awesome
too.
band you want.
Jerry says that artists are essential for our mental health. Sean's mom says Sean has been drawing since he could hold a pencil. Sean Murphy says, yeah, people think it just happens, or you can just use your computer.
The computer is a magic box.
It's not that easy, folks.
It's a great tool, but yeah, it doesn't.
Ken backs you up what you just said. Pay for quality, and it is a skill. Ronnie's laughing at Murphy. Murphy says that his response to that is usually hand them the mouse and ask them to show me what they mean. That usually makes them think. Yeah, it's not as easy. It's not just hit a button, for sure. Even on a computer, I know that there's a stigma about that, but that's definitely not the case. Jerry says one of our graphic artists has been on the essential employee list since the beginning. That's very cool.
That's awesome.
Ronnie says that Wilson's artistic style is nothing short of amazing.
Thank you, sir.
More on Sean. His mom says, when I would go to PTA meetings, I could always find Sean's table because he always drew on his work.
It's true. Very true.
Gigi says, rest in peace shop class. That's another one that that's getting cut.
It's art. You can learn, you can either just make a table or you can make a very awesome artistic table.
Yep, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Jim says, all well said, Winston. Winston is the nickname for Wilson because there's so many Seans and all out of there. There's a whole story there. Let's not get into it. Paul King, also from YouTube, thank you for checking in, says, we live in an age where everyone is consuming content all the time and no one feels obligated to pay for it. Oh, yeah. Thanks for the free YouTube stream. There it is. Yeah, you guys are getting that. Podcast. You're getting that. You're getting that content. You're getting our content right now for free. It's a good point. Betty again says, I sew when people ask me to make something, but they don't want to pay. And sewing is art, and she's been doing it for at least 50 years. Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely along the same lines. Murphy says that pollsters are non-essential. Pandemic. Let's not get onto that. Gary says consuming art is essential to my happiness, especially during these stressful times. There it is. I can't consume art without artists.
Amen.
Jerry says artists teach you how to deal with life. Thanks everyone for chiming in. This is awesome. Ronnie says Vincent Van Gogh cut his ear off. I believe he couldn't get people to listen. Oh boy, Ronnie.
It's here all week, folks.
Yeah, he's here all week. Exactly. Gigi says if the Louvre burned down tomorrow, would the world would keep spinning, but it's a world we want to live in. Yeah, I mean, that's art plus its history. And Ronnie backs that up. Hey, there's our whole group. Let's get out of this segment and on to something else. Hello, Task Force Geek fans. Thank you for watching our video. If you enjoy our content, please leave a like, leave a comment, or you could subscribe and hit that bell so that you'll get notified every time that we put out a new video. Your individual help helps a lot. Thank you.